Oh, hi! From the Latin base co, meaning together, and stella, meaning star, the term constellation naturally means a grouping of stars.
Nice.
Constellations are named after shapes of people, animals, and most famously, mythological beings. The word mythological comes from the word myth, and a myth is a made-up story. Stars in the constellation aren't actually together, it's all about their position relative to us on the Earth. Back then in ancient times, people believed that we were the center of everything, so they naturally linked the stars together as an attempt to try to understand the universe by establishing the relationships between the stars. And the ancient Greeks and Romans loved making up stories, stories about gods, heroes, creatures like serpents, dragons, flying horses, etc., just to name the constellations. But scientifically though, those ancient civilizations identified constellations so they could serve as a reliable calendar telling them when to harvest, what time of year it was, etc. The reason behind that is because all stars appear to rise in the east and set in the west, no exception, and this is because we, the planet Earth, actually spins towards the east but at the same time orbits around the sun. These movements set the fixed patterns of the constellation we can see in the sky, so whenever we see a constellation, it indicates a clear time of the night and the year. So we are all aware the fascinating or not so fascinating stories created by Greeks after constellations. Perhaps one of the most famous one is the one for the big white bull in the sky, Taurus. So the story goes like one day Zeus, the famous latest man, transformed himself into a big white bull just so he could win the affections of the famous Phoenician princess Europa. He did get her attention, but that's not enough. He then subsequently abducted to Crete on his back. My genuine thought reading the story is, okay, clearly there's a reason why the horn is the most visible part of the constellation. The famous Orion, the three-star belt, and the two supergiant stars was named after the mighty hunter in Greek mythology. The story behind Orion is that one day, Orion proclaimed to the heavens that he could kill all the wild animals on the planet Earth. This type of behavior really angered the goddess of the earth, Gaia, so she decided to send the venomous scorpion to kill him. After Orion was killed, guess what? Yes, Zeus then transformed him into stars and put them in the sky. What is interesting here is that he was being placed opposite to the scorpion that stunned him, and that scorpion is now the famous Scorpius constellation we see. It's funny because in reality we cannot see Scorpius and Orion, these two constellations, at the same time. So with this Greek story, it basically says that the hunter Orion is always fleeing from the scorpion that killed him. If you take another look at Orion and the surrounding stars, you realize there's actually a hare and two dogs nearby. The bigger dog is more distinguishable than the smaller dog thanks to the brighter star it has on its chest, which is the famous Sirius. So because of the close proximity between the hare, the dogs, and the hunter Orion, what people usually believe is that the dogs are chasing the hare for the hunter. Moving ahead to modern times, we have Japanese automobile company Subaru. Subaru was named after the famous cluster Pleiades, which is also known as the Seven Sisters in the Greek mythology. Subaru is the Japanese term for the cluster, and because traditionally we can only easily see 6 stars of the cluster rather than 7, and that's why the logo only depicts 6 stars rather than 7, which are in reference to the 7 divine sisters in the Greek mythology. So although none of the constellations are for real, it's still very important to retain them, because can you imagine that going forward you have to refer to what? Geometrical position to talk about a star? Isn't it a lot easier just to say the 2 brightest stars in Orion or the 2nd brightest star, say, in Ursa Major? I love stargazing, and knowing constellations really helped me explore the sky. However, I'm not a fan of the made-up stories behind constellations, but if the stories can serve as a catalyst to help people get into astronomy, they may serve a purpose in modern time. After all, you don't know if the boy or girl next door you inspire wouldn't become the next Stephen Hawking or Einstein.